and inspired you. Welcome to the Jill Berlin Show on Triad Today.
Hello, and welcome to the Jill Berlin Show on Triad Today with WSJS. We are so glad that you are here with us today, and we are also excited about our guest. But before we get to that, we're going to start with what we always do, which is our positive quote of the day. And this is Romans 8:28. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. Someone who has lived according to his purpose and has experienced a lot of twists and turns is Gray Wilson. Gray, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back again.
Or should I say Commissioner Wilson? So let me just give you a little bit of background here. So Dave Plyler was on the commission. He was Forsyth County Commissioner. He said he was going to be in the race, then he dropped out. Then he got back in, and then he dropped out again. And so that's where Gray comes in. And so Gray has now had this unique, this is already a historical election anyway. Gray has had this unique situation to where he has served as a commissioner now leading up to this election in November. So you actually have experience on the board. And you also are, you sure you still want to put your name in the hat? You still want to keep going?
Well, I will say, if I learned anything from the campaign through the primary and up to the present date, it's why good people do not always want to run for public office.
Yeah.
So yes, it is a challenge. I hope I'm up to it, but the next 3 weeks will tell the tale.
I bet there's a lot of people who come around and support you now that they see that you're the winner. All right. So some of the things that we want to talk about with Gray is, one, now that he has actually gotten into this position since July 1st, what has it been like since you've been on there? And Gray's also going to talk about something personal to him that he doesn't normally open up about. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about things that you have experienced and something that I've been hearing on the street, which is this public school system and changing things around. And I want to know what you're hearing and how this really came about, Gray, because you have the inside information. So we want to, inform us.
Well, I don't know that I have much information, but it came in the form of flyers that were distributed in a number of neighborhoods around the town. And then neighbors were at my door. And apparently there is something afoot with regard to a plan, I think, that was hatched out of Massachusetts by artificial intelligence.
What?
Yes, it essentially takes a survey of school lunches that are provided, and schools that don't provide as many as others may be subject to redistricting in order to mix up the assignment of students. And I think there is a lot of concern about that and a lot of lack of knowledge about it, but certainly opposition that's come to my door. As far as I know, there's much more to be learned about it. But, we have a county commissioner who chairs that body, Don Martin, who was a school superintendent for 18 years. He's very knowledgeable about the programs they have. And, I think that Forsyth County has a pretty fair school choice program, and that people of all stripes, Caucasians, people of color, are supportive of that because they are comfortable, with having their children in schools where they want them to be. And so when you start talking about redistricting, you're talking about moving people around from school to school. And
so just so we're clear, are you for or against the redistricting of the public school system in Forsyth County?
I'm cautiously opposed to it at this point. Again, there's a dearth of information, but if what we have works, don't fix it if it's not broke.
All right. So, Gray, something else that we're going to talk about is you have a ton of experience. You've been an attorney for 47 years. He's received a ton of awards, held so many leadership positions. You also are a veteran and served as a lieutenant in the Army. Thank you for your service. And also something else, too, is that you are very big on law enforcement targeting violence and drug crimes. And this is something that you don't normally talk about. Why? the why this is near and dear to your heart. And I know it's because you don't want to make this your campaign slogan and use it as something where, you're trying to get the sympathy vote. You want to do it based on your merit, which I respect. But I think this is important to know, not only the candidate and their professional life, but also their personal life and the driver behind this stuff. So why is targeting violent crimes and drugs so important to you on a personal level?
Well, first, I will just say that given my military background, I think I have a fairly basic understanding that without law, without order, nothing else works. You can build all the schoolhouses you want. If someone's going to come in and burn them down afterward because you don't have order, it doesn't really matter. And in this county, we not only have a record homicide rate and violent crime out of control, we have overwhelming drug trafficking, and it's killing a generation of our young people right now. And my wife and I, 4 years ago, lost a child to a fentanyl overdose. And in the wake of that, it has been near and dear to both of us. We're very involved in any of the nonprofit and governmental organizations that are targeted toward reducing drug trafficking and saving lives. And that's really what it's about. We push Narcan about everywhere we can. And I mean, we deliver it wherever it's needed, in this county, out of this county. And we're just very passionate about trying to inform the public about the risk, the horrors of drug trafficking, because without that, we have no order, and we won't have another generation of young people either.
And I think the other thing too is that, clearly your son came out of a good home, loving mother, loving father. You obviously showed him through not only, by the words that you would say to him, but also your loving example as a leader. And I think that's the thing, is that with the drugs, is it affects everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone is susceptible to addiction. And so once you get a little bit, or, taste of it, a little bit more, it becomes such a huge thing. And then I think talking about it with other people, you kind of feel a little bit of embarrassment or shame, but then you get to the point where you want to help others. And I've heard that time and time again from other parents who have gone through this. And so I think it's admirable that you are willing to talk about this with us. What advice would you give other parents?
Well, the advice, the cardinal advice would be talk to your children, talk to them constantly with regard to avoiding these poisons that are out in the community, and they're described in 100 different ways, in candies and pharmaceutical medications, and it only takes, a drop or two to kill, and it is poison. Substance use disorder is not a moral failing. It's a disease, and it's one like a number of mental illnesses that can and should be treated. And to do that, we have to keep people informed and educated, but most importantly, alive, with the hope that, we can continue to fight off this demon, which is, again, destroying our youth.
All right, let's talk a little bit about fiscal responsibility. Change the subject here. So it's easy to say as a candidate, I'm going to go in and I'm going to make sure everyone's fiscally responsible, and I'm going to change the world. But I also know that you're practical. You're a realist. So tell me what that looks like. How are you fiscally responsible with county funds?
Well, there's a fairly large county budget every year, about $580 million. And there are a lot of organizations and individuals lined up to try to get a piece of the pie. So the distribution percentages are where the rubber meets the road. And I will tell you that, having been a county commissioner for just 3 months, the learning curve in that regard is extreme. You have a budget package that's several hundred pages long. But I think smarter spending, smarter growth is the ticket to the success of this community. And we just have to focus on what programs are really vital, what we can trim fat off of in other circumstances, but most importantly, to be sure that we make uh, rational, educated, intelligent decisions so that we don't find a year or two later that there was a giveaway with no return.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, Gray. Now that you've been here and you've been in office, why did you run for this position? Because you have all the accolades in your professional career. Why would you do this? It's not like you needed to boost your career here.
I would like to say something lofty here, but I'll give you this straight story.
Okay.
I came to know the county commission because for a better part of a decade, a small group of determined lawyers fought to get a new courthouse in this county. The one that's over 50 years old now was a toilet, and it was simply unfixable. And in going to meeting after meeting, week after week for years to try to achieve that objective, we finally did. We have a beautiful new courthouse now. It's not perfect, but it's way better than the other one. And we dedicated that last October, and I was sitting there at the dedication, and there were the lawyers who worked on it were recognized, and the commissioners took their bows as well. And I looked over at a Superior Court judge who will remain nameless and said, I think I'm going to run for commissioner now. I know how this works. You don't want to know what he said in response. But I went home and said the same thing to my wife. What she said was worse. Then I talked to a political strategist. Couldn't afford to pay one, but got him for 5 minutes. He was down from Washington, D.C., and he said, there's no reason for you to run. You're white, you're male, you're Republican, and you're a lawyer. Nobody will vote for you. So that really determined me to put my hat in the ring.
Yeah, reverse psychology works like a charm on you, apparently.
Yes.
That's hilarious. All right. So the other thing that we're going to talk about when we come back is, do the Forsyth County Commissioners get along behind closed doors? Gray Wilson's going to give us the answer when we come back. You're listening to the Jill Berlin Show on WSJS. And welcome back. You are listening to the Jill Berlin Show on WSJS. All right, we have a comment from Mandy Nelson Hagerson. Gray Wilson will make a great Forsyth County Commissioner with his experience and dedication to our community. So thank you, Mandy, for that comment. All right, let's talk about what we were going to say right before the break, which was Gray's been in office as a Forsyth County Commissioner in an abnormal circumstance. Was he welcomed? Was he not welcomed? How does it work behind the scenes? What do we not see or hear? All right, Gray, what is it like behind closed doors?
There's no question that there is a wide diversity and difference of opinion politically and otherwise among the various members of the commission. So I think the greatest surprise I had was how welcome they made me feel, how collegial they are. And if you come to a meeting, you will see that every time. They work together. When they're in a formal meeting and then we have closed sessions, they do the same thing. We don't go back and throw bombs at each other. I've only been a commissioner for 3 months, but I can say that I think one of the best features of that group is that they work together and not against each other, understanding the myriad of differences that we all have.
I think that's really great. So you all respect each other's difference of opinions, but yet you also are able to work together for the betterment of our community, which is what we hope our elected officials do, but that's not always the case, right? So I think there are some people out there listening, Gray, and they're wondering, what exactly does a Forsyth County Commissioner do?
The activities and the obligations that a commissioner has are endless. I mean, we have meetings almost weekly. But we also have briefing sessions before the meetings. I mean, what you're seeing is the tip of the iceberg at a 2-hour, 3-hour meeting, which is sometimes longer on a Thursday afternoon. But every week, it seems we have some activities to go to, celebrations, recognitions, groundbreakings. I've been to 3 already. You think of any organization in the county, from Forsyth Tech all the nonprofit organizations that we have. Whenever they have a celebration, they want us to be there and to make remarks and to tell them what we think about them. And so there is not a week that has gone by when there weren't 2, 3, 4 events like that. And then let's not forget, there is a campaign on now. And so, last week there were 3 candidate forums. I can't tell you how much fun that was.
So that's interesting you bring that up, because we're obviously in a historical election cycle with the presidents and what's going on with our entire country. We're experiencing extreme natural disasters. There's a lot of change and a lot of big events that are going on currently in our lives. And so I think what's really important is that we vote for our local candidates, whether you are Democrat, Republican, Independent. It's so important to go out to the polls and vote. And we got another comment actually come in. It's from Nikki Reed. She said, "I love this man. He's smart and funny. I love his sense of humor." So if the county commissioner thing doesn't work out, maybe comedian. I don't know. All right. So we've got early voting and we've got, a ton of voting going on. And actually, in Florida, they're changing when you can bring in the mail-in ballots and whatnot. So talk about voting, Gray, because with this being such an important voting cycle, it's not just voting for who's president and who's not president, but your local officials are really someone that you need to be invested in knowing about, because they impact you and your backyard. So talk a little bit about voting, the voting schedule, and that type of thing.
There's no question that there is extreme polarity going into this election. There are obviously very divergent views, extreme views on each end of the poll there. And with that comes some measure of rage. I think it's important to remember, that voting is a franchise, a constitutional and sacred obligation and privilege that we all have, and it needs to be exercised wisely and not rashly. There's rage out there on both sides of the street. I can tell you that. I've seen it firsthand, knocking on doors. So early voting starts on October 17, and the statistics, I think, clearly show in this county that over half, about 56% of the electorate will vote early. And then on November 5th, those who haven't had that pleasure yet, I hope will take the time to go and vote. This is a chance for your voice to be heard. If you don't vote, you've voted clearly. And so this is the opportunity to express your viewpoint. And there are a lot of them out there right now, but I think that intelligent, rational people can work through those things. And I'm proud to say that the commission seems to function that way currently. And that was about the most pleasant surprise I have received in politics all year.
So, all right. So if we have someone that is, that is good to hear, that the county commissioners are working together as a team to help the betterment of the community. And you're now a part of that. And in this very bizarre situation, turn of events. All right. So here's the deal. If there are people out here, they're listening to you, they're not sure, Gray, not Gray, I don't know. If they want more information, where do they go?
Well, this is really clever. I have a website that says votegraywilson.com, and that's GRAY. And if you want to pull that up, my entire most of my platform is there for all to see and to explore. And I think it's pretty clear where I stand on most things. I'm certainly a fiscal conservative. I believe in smarter spending, and I'd love to see smarter growth so that the county will continue to prosper in the very best ways.
All right. VoteGrayWilson.com for more information. We appreciate you being in here. And when we come back, a local author talking about sandpaper moments. What is that? She'll explain. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Jill Berlin Show.